next up is two more of our local leaders, Village President of West Dundee, Larry Keller, and Mayor of Batavia, Jeff Schelke. And I think, Village President, you're going to start.
I've come here to speak a little bit about the sample transportation projects that you see on the screen. And this is one of those typical finished projects. And for those of us that have given birth to ideas that have later mutated into final projects, it's always good to see this final completion. But looking behind the scenes, it's a little more difficult and a little more complex than what it might appear. And it takes way too long at times. For example, the Stearns Road Bridge and Corridor was at least 20 years in the making, from beginning to end. And if you're trying to push these projects along, that's a long time. But saying that, there's some good results because of that planning effort and that time that goes in. There's a lot of support that is garnered from local municipalities, from elected officials, from residents, and from county officials, both elected, and then there's staff in both areas. So those people really work hard to dovetail all the plans and concerns together and to get things done. There's numerous public meetings, public hearings, and all of the legal entities the legal T's and I's have to be crossed and dotted to make sure things get done. So all of that takes time. And when I say that takes time as an elected official, that usually means staff. So we must be mindful of how much time the staff puts in to get these things done. It's an enormous amount of time. Speaking, for example, of one of the most high-profile recent projects is the Stearns Road Corridor and Bridge. That corridor attracted or resulted in about 5,000 jobs. 5,000 jobs at a time when we really needed to have some jobs. And so those were very important. And they're very important for all of us, but no more important than they are for the people that actually held the jobs. They're very important for them and their families. There were 8 local bridges in addition to the Stearns Road Bridge that goes over the Fox River. So we look at that Fox River Bridge and we say, well, that's the project, that's the bridge. Well, that's the primary bridge. But there are 8 other bridges as well. There were 2 underpasses that were built because there was a bike trail built along with this. There was 3 bike trails that were connected to make the transportation network via bicycle something that was realized as well. It isn't simply a road corridor. It's a corridor that has transportation and many elements of that transportation. Along the way, there were 216 acres of open space created. Some of that open space was rejuvenated into oak savannas and wetlands and so on. The point is, none of these things would have been addressed probably without all of the time taken to get the input from the various people that put it in. I'm personally familiar with the Longmeadow Bridge corridor. That's been going on too for a long time. It really had its start in 1990, along with the Stearns Road corridor. However, like gardening, a seed has to fall on fertile ground. And the seed for the Longmeadow Bridge didn't fall on fertile ground for 10 years or thereabouts. And then it got started. About 2000, some environmental studies were done. After that, in 2001, 9 communities and 2 counties signed on to a resolution to promote the Longmeadow Bridge corridor. How many board meetings do you have where you have that kind of consensus? It was remarkable. Those 9 communities and the 2 counties all have a vested interest in getting this corridor completed. It isn't all the same interest. Everybody has a little different need that's going to be addressed. And that's part of the difficulty, putting all those needs together. In 2007, the same communities came together and said, funding for this, because of where it is in the economic times, it's going to be a little difficult. So they said, let's go forward with a toll authority or toll bridge to finance the Long Meadow corridor. After that, numerous public meetings were held throughout, and throughout the process, concerns were brought up, staff addresses them, more than likely, and solutions found for all the stakeholders. I could go on and on and on, but I don't really need to. I think you get the point. Planning takes time. It takes effort. It takes cooperation, and there's been a tremendous amount for the Stearns Road corridor and also for the Long Meadow Bridge. The next slide deals with open space, because that's another part of what we're dealing with when we're planning. And open space is one of those things that we can easily forget about. We have a lot of open space. That's farmland, but it's open space. It's used every day. Well, dedicated open space is a little bit different. That's bought and purchased by some governmental agency, and it's open space in perpetuity. It can be used for active parks or recreational uses. It can be used in more passive ways, just as green space. The more passive ways can later maybe become more active if necessary, but it's purchased land that's dedicated. It will not be filled in. It also adds to the quality of life for the various communities and the people in the area. It subtracts for costs, because you don't really have to supply a lot of police, fire, public works to those open spaces. So there are benefits in that regard as well. And obviously there's a lot of benefits for those people that live right around it, because they have enhanced quality of life right in their neighborhood.